Titanfall 2 is the best first-person shooter I've ever played. Giant robots, chaotic battlefields, and cool guns. What more can a man ask for? Titanfall 2 is lightning quick, boasting the most comprehensive movement system in the shooter genre I've ever seen. Players have a plethora of skills and weapons to play around with, some of which really change the fundamental ways a player interacts with the combat zone around him. The art style and customization of your multiplayer pilot, paired with the vivid and visceral sound design, create a wholly unique gameplay experience. Getting into an intense firefight, surviving just long enough to get in your giant robot, and then dominate the combat zone is such a primal feeling that keeps players coming back, even 7 years later. So let's grab our flatline, activate our body double, and get into our massive robot as we discover what made Titanfall 2 so awesome. Shout out to the Act Man. Titanfall 2 was released on October 28, 2016 by Respawn Entertainment, who made the stupid decision of releasing this game a week after Battlefield 1, the other greatest shooter of all time. Literally could not have picked a worse date, and I think that really hurt the opening few months of Titanfall's release. I believe Titanfall 2 could have been a great alternative for those fatigued on Call of Duty and Battlefield, but the unfortunate success of a Titanfall spin-off, named Apex Legends, has doomed the Titanfall franchise to get the Valve treatment, meaning it'll never see another mainline entry ever again. I hope I get to look at this video in the future and see how wrong I am, but considering it's been 7 years, I believe I'm unfortunately correct. Which is a shame, because check out some of these reviews of this game. Clearly I'm not the only one with fond memories. Every person I've spoken to about this game always says it's in their top 3 or in their top 5 games of all time. A fully functional shooter with a fully fleshed out campaign, basically endless multiplayer, where your skills could develop into infinity because there's always a new trick to learn, and whole playstyles that hadn't even been tried out yet. A little while later, a player vs AI mode was released for those who, like me, don't enjoy multiplayer all that much. However, this game is an exception to the rule for me. I must have put hundreds of hours playing the online matchmaking, but PlayStation is not user friendly, so it doesn't tell me how many hours in total. Titanfall 2 is one of the first shooters to ever make me feel like I had a chance at holding my own, and sometimes even thriving. Although my skills have absolutely waned in the years I haven't played, and playing on PC has made me lose my muscle memory, so go ahead and judge my gameplay. I can take it. Let's start with the campaign. The IMC is an evil corporation trying to dominate a cluster of planets known as the Frontier, in order to harvest its resources for their super evil machinations. They fulfill their goals no matter the sacrifice, and usually that sacrifice comes at the expense of the Frontier's inhabitants, known as the Frontier Militia, a group trying their hardest to stop the IMC from, being an evil corporation. The IMC primarily use human-sized robots and slightly bigger robots as their main battle forces, while the militia solely relies on foot soldiers and guerrilla-style warfare. Both the IMC and Frontier Militia make use of mercenary factions, these being the pilots and their titans. It gets a little complicated, but it mainly seems that the factions are independent, but usually end up with the IMC or Frontier Militia based on moral reasons, as demonstrated by the pilots working with the Frontier, usually rugged but honest-hearted people, while the pilots working for the IMC literally collect ears off of corpses and play with the dead bodies of your buddies in front of you. Yeah, if it's not apparent who you're supposed to be rooting for, the game makes it pretty clear within the first hour or so. You play as Jack Cooper, voiced by everyone's boyfriend, Matt Mercer. You start as a lowly rifleman trying to protect his homeland, but with aspirations of becoming a pilot one day. That dream is fulfilled when your buddy's dying breath grants you permission to take over emergency command of his Titan, BT. You've entered the planet Typhon in a raid to attack an IMC facility. After waking up from crash landing and gaining control over BT, Cooper decides to regroup with a person named Major Anderson. That's the goal for the first chunk of the game, as you and BT take out a few noteworthy super duper evil pilots along the way. You gain loadouts for BT that allow you to change your strategies to meet different threats, and threats you will meet. The combat starts pretty easy, but later on you get moments where if your feet stop moving, you are dead. While I don't think any one enemy is really a threat alone, there are some nasty combos that can wreck your world. Every enemy has a purpose. For example, ticks are fast little dudes that skitter around trying to get under your feet, where they will then explode, forcing you to never stop moving or keep yourself off the ground. Shield dudes pair really nasty with these guys because you need to position yourself behind the shield to get some shots in before he turns the shield to block you. However, the ticks are always just where I need to be, or won't let me have a second or two I need to aim my grenade or whatever. I'm in no way complaining, this is super fun and dynamic gameplay. The main foot soldier robots are hackable. If you can get behind them and can find a few seconds to stand still, you'll be rewarded with a companion who can draw some of the fire away from you, and can deliver a bit of firepower from your side. Speaking of firepower, one of my favorite aspects of this game is the weapons and their sound design. Like, listen to this. Some of the guns are absolutely more powerful than the others, but every weapon gets the job done. The flatline is my choice for multiplayer. For single player, I just pick up whatever looks and sounds the coolest, or that makes the coolest colors when firing. It's astounding, the sound difference of pilot weapons versus Titan weapons. The Titan weapons are amazing, usually slow and something you'd usually see mounted on a tank, ranging from missiles to giant miniguns to even swords. Check the sounds on the Titan weapons too. I'd like to take a brief moment and say if you're having fun with this video, please throw a like and subscribe my way. These are far more difficult to produce than I initially thought when I started this channel, so any love you can show me is much appreciated. While searching for Major Anderson's last known coordinates, we find ourselves traveling along the surface of Typhon in a mysterious facility that, over the course of the firefight, is revealed to be a manufacturing facility for customized testing grounds. This level has always been a favorite of mine as you fight in and out of rooms being constructed until you yourself become a live subject for a pilot to test her robots against. The arena is awesome, watching it slowly get destroyed throughout the fight as the enemy pilot realizes the tests don't work if they never result in your death. This is one of my favorite aspects of Titanfall 2. It's fully aware it's a video game and is completely unapologetic about that. Respawn saw what players like and built systems in place that reward players for interacting with those systems. The easiest one to point out is how walking and sprinting is the slowest way to traverse the battlefields. Instead, Respawn saw how awesome it is to wall run and slide, so they gave players a speed boost for doing these alternative means of traversal, while giving the players as many possible spots to do so. Now, the moment your boots touch the ground, you're searching for ways to get them back off. You can even hitch a ride on your buddy's Titan to cross the battlefield more quickly if there's no walls to run on. Another way Respawn incentivizes players to have fun is by giving the Titans infinite ammo. Yes, there is a reload, but besides that, players are encouraged to just fire at will. There's almost no downside to just lighting your enemies up, except maybe having to come out of sprint to do so. I can see issues arising if Respawn decided that Titans need to scrounge for ammo or whatever, and instead decided to release the constraints that other companies probably would have put on it, and it contributes heavily to the flow of combat. I also love the set pieces and skyboxes this game contains. The views and vistas feel almost hand-painted, which I know they are because the devs took the time to craft each zone and map with care and detail. It's not hard to stop and stare around you, my favorite being that factory we mentioned earlier. At pretty much any point, I want to stop and take screenshots, like look at some of these. Continuing with the story, after the mission with the World Foundry, that testing lab I was telling you about earlier, we come upon Anderson's coordinates and he's, well, materialized in the ceiling? This level also brings to mind how the devs didn't want the player to get bored with running and gunning, as it introduces a temporary gameplay system. Literal time travel. No, really. This mission involves you bouncing between the past and the present with no restriction on how often you can do so. Entering a firefight and then using the present time to sneak behind them and then going back in time as a weird temporal flanking maneuver is so funny and interesting. Thankfully, this mechanic doesn't overstay its welcome, which is nice. We spoke earlier of set pieces. Check this one out at the end of this mission. We find out that the evil corporation is planning to use a big scary evil weapon to do evil deeds with, and it's our job as the good guys to stop them. To do so, we travel to a mountain range that houses a beacon that'll allow us to send a distress signal back to the main militia forces. After jumping through a bunch of suspended platforms that act as our theater of combat, we send the signal back to the main force. The next mission is stunning as the Frontier forces invade the IMC's facility that houses the Ark, the evil battery for the previously discussed evil weapon. This chapter is jaw-dropping. You get dropped off in front of a wall of artillery and witness every Titan in your unit fire off missiles at once to bring the wall down. Then storm inside the base, D-Day style. It gets my heart pumping watching these hulking mechs smash into each other, releasing lasers and missiles and flame walls. Man, what an incredible scene that separates pilot combat versus Titan combat. Pilots are fast and nimble, while Titans are gigantic, weighty monsters that fight like such. We don't make it to the Ark in time before the IMC can throw it in a ship and take off, but that just gives Respawn an excuse to create a sky level, and wow, everything about this is jaw-dropping. The scale of the frigate ships mixed with the little dropships and fighters is watching Respawn firing on all cylinders. I really like how we get Titan combat and pilot combat as BT tosses us to a ship and then we jump from ship to ship under the covering fire of the militia's elite squadron, the 6-4. We fight a pilot known as Viper who pilots a modified North Star Titan that allows him to fly. After clipping his wings, he tries to drag us to the Earth with him, but we instead land on the ship containing the Ark, in which we manage to grab it for ourselves. Not for long though, as the evil marauders catch us and retrieve the Ark. I'll be brief here at the end, but we put BT's core into a new chassis and angrily minigun our way through heaps and heaps of opponents till we find Sloane. I thought she was like the evil second in command, but I may be wrong because the main evil guy almost doesn't care when you offer, instead asking if you want to join his evil team, setting up the multiplayer very well as that's a faction that you can have narrate the multiplayer for you. We managed to stop the weapon at the very last second, using BT as a bomb and saving the Frontier. This whole run could be done in just under 10 hours or so, and it's fast paced and focused the entire time. I couldn't be more happy. No fluff, no weird systems that don't work, no bloated runtime. Just a focused, enjoyable campaign that tells you what it's going to be and delivers. It's very difficult to explain, but this game oozes love from the developers. The music, the animations, the freedom of choice and playstyle. And besides some cosmetics that are DLC, the pilot and Titan customization is very deep and comprehensive. You simply don't get quality like this in games anymore, and it's why I feel Titanfall 2 will be the best shooter of 2024, because nothing has quite come close in the 7 years it's been around. While I don't think it'll ever receive a sequel due to the cash cow cousin Apex Legends, I will continue to play here and there until the servers die. Easily my favorite shooter of all time, and I hope you check it out if you haven't played it yet. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.